Have a round of applause for the people over here. We are going to talk about cracking the happiness code. So I think I'm going to start with a very easy one. In one line, what does happiness mean to all of you? Very easy. How can you bring your happiness philosophy in one line? I think we'll start with Navya because she just told me that she wants to answer first.
I actually said the opposite, but thank you. And that's not an easy question. That's a very existential question you've asked me. But I don't know if I can sum it up in a sentence. I'll say it in a word. Happiness for me is my family.
That's a good one. That's a really lovely one. Shreyas?
A little longer than this, but happiness for me is the journey of self-awareness, continuously learning, evolving, and embracing the growth that comes from your life's experiences.
So well said, so well said. Shreyas, if I may ask, are you doing better now? How are you feeling? How's your back right now?
Back, yeah, I'm recuperating well. For the last few months, I was struggling a bit, but now I've reached the stage where I feel extremely comfortable. I can travel well, and yeah, I've started batting as well, so it's a great news.
We are all rooting for you. Can we have a round of applause for one of India's premium cricketers? We're all cheering for you and really hope to see you back on the pitch again.
Thank you so much.
Niharika, in one line, what is happiness?
Feel like if I was really happy, I would know exactly how to answer it. But I think we all want to be happy, and I love how he simplified it in one question and asked, like, we don't spend our entire lifetime just trying to figure it out. So I guess happiness is something I want, happy is something I want to be. So I'm going to work towards it. So just watch my videos so I get happy. Thanks.
Well said. Anand?
To me, happiness is peace of mind.
I think this is something for all the younger folks, I think, to take away. I think this is a Zen philosophy. Thank you so much. Peace of mind. I think fantastic answers from everyone.
They all said such cute things, so I just want to change my answer to everything they said. Ditto.
Anant, I think I'm going to start the panel with you because, of course, RPG's company tagline is Hello Happiness. Why is happiness so important to you as a company? That's not something you see in the typical philosophy. You're always talking about revenue, profits, growth, and suddenly there's this company and this group, which has obviously been a legacy brand. We've heard so much and all of us respect it. Why has been happiness such an important part of your group and your brand and your philosophy?
Yeah, I'd say for us, happiness is very much embedded even in our vision statement. So it says our vision is to unleash talent, touch lives, outperform, and be happy. So that's really, it's embedded in really our core in terms of our beliefs. But why happiness, I'd say, is that we feel that if our people are happy, customers will be happy. We feel that it'll result in better retention, better productivity, and eventually lead to growth and profitability and so on, all the financial metrics. But I think the core starts from happiness. In fact, internally, we've also spoken about, what does happiness lead to success or does success lead to happiness? And we felt that success leads to happiness only for a short period of time. But if you can internally be happy and the outcomes of living a balanced life or being more meaningful and purposeful will make you more successful. So we feel happiness leads to success.
That's so well said. And I hope, honestly, can you have a round of applause? Because I hope there are more corporates that think this way. And, I think one of the great joys for us to work with, as you are, to work with RPG has been learning that these commandments that we have released today in the research report have been a core part of your group's philosophy and policies. Actionable policies since so long. So congratulations to you and everyone over here who's worked toward making this happen. Niharika, I'll come to you, and I know that I've heard you talk about happiness in a very existential manner before. But I think one of the things that I do recognize is that it's not easy being a content creator. It's very demanding. It's obviously, there are lots and lots of challenges on a day-to-day basis that you face, and especially as a young person, it cannot be easy. And you've just said earlier, you want to be happy. How do you balance this idea of what is the pursuit of happiness with these daily stresses and demands of being a Gen Z content creator?
I don't think it's any different just because you're Gen Z. Um, but as a content creator that does comedy, I think most of my job is rooted in me being happy, which is not all the time. So like it's tied to my job and my money. So then I remind myself that you need to be happy today because we need to make money, you know? But jokes apart, I think for me, for the longest time in my life, I measured happiness in terms of success. I would equate it to what the next big thing is or the next big goal is until I couldn't do it anymore. I actually started creating content when I was 18 and I did really well for an 18-year-old. I was the most popular kid in college. I had a blue tick before blue ticks were even a thing, guys. Like you need to know. Like no, it gets sad. It gets sad. Hold on. So I thought I was really like killing it, right? Like I thought I made it. And I was a college student where my classmates were taking pictures with me. Now imagine how much that'll get to your head. And then it hit a point where I just didn't know why I was doing what I was doing anymore. I did it for the passion in the beginning, and then it just became for the fame and the numbers, and I couldn't do it anymore, and it didn't make me happy, so I quit. And I did a double master's, and I realized that made me sad. So then I stopped. I didn't stop. I finished it because my parents said they would get me married if I didn't finish it. So I was like, okay, I will do it. I'm a South Indian, if you couldn't tell. So I did whatever they asked me to do, and now I'm happy because my parents are happy. And that's how I get through every single day, by keeping them happy, but also just in smaller things. I don't equate happiness to goals and numbers and anything that you can quantify anymore. I'm going to be so Pinteresty and cliche right now. I find happiness in like the tiniest things. When my dog says hi to me first and not my brother, yes, that's a win. I'm the favorite, you know? And I know I'm my parents' favorite, so I'm happy my brother's not, so yeah.
Thank you for the very real answer, as usual, Niharika. I hope one of the little things that makes you happy is also being on a stage with such cool people.
Actually, I am such an anxious person that this is my nightmare, being in public, which is why I make videos behind closed doors. Comedy ones, get your minds out of the gutter. So it's just, this is like, you need to laugh here so I don't get an anxiety attack.
Please laugh.
Oh my
Everyone.
gosh, Niharika, you're so funny. Thank you. Please ask someone else. Thank you.
I think we're talking about pressures and stresses. I think Shreyas, I think naturally that comes to you. Being a cricketer for the Indian cricket team, it's such a public and such a high stress environment. Of course, we know that you've gone through injury as well. How do you, as a sports person, as an athlete that everyone is looking at day in and day out and looking up to, so to speak, how do you manage to prioritize your happiness? And does that have an impact towards the performance that you give, in the matches?
See, in our country, fans are definitely passionate about their sports, and whenever they come to see the match, they want their team to win. So obviously, the pressure is always going to be there if you play on the field or you step out of the field. But as they say, when you work, and if you enjoy your work, it doesn't feel like working. So that's the mantra which I follow, and I love what I do. Whenever I step onto the field, I enjoy that moment. Whenever I see, the stadium is filled with crowd and it's bustling, the atmosphere is electrifying. And that's what gives me a goosebump. And, I just want to go out there and give my best to all of them. So whenever I perform on the field, I see to it that I give 110%. I try to leave no stone unturned. And also my preparation is something like I try to follow a certain kind of routine. I try to repeat it as long as possible. So I try to maintain a kind of discipline. And you see, when you do all these things right, you're not worried about the pressure and the outcomes, to be honest. You just want to focus on what's there on your plate rather than, distracting your mind about what other players are doing or what other teams are planning against you. So, hence, just to, long story short, I just like to, in between the matches, unwind, rejuvenate, relax. Keep that calm and demeanor kind of, mentality, which helps me to focus more. And it kind of motivates me as well. So whenever I step back onto the field, I'm refreshed and I'm ready to roar.
Can we have a round of applause for him? He's been clapping for everybody who speaks on stage. Yeah, he's been like, yeah, absolutely.
There was a happiness in that answer, and suddenly you come to pressure. So, yeah.
No, no, because you mentioned rejuvenation, so let me ask you, what is the way in between matches, as you said, you chill your downtime, which is your favorite activity that makes you happy?
Spending time with family.
I love everyone on this stage. I think everyone, give a round of applause. What a sweet bunch of people over here.
Because we crave for that meeting. We are constantly on the, on the field and traveling around. And in between we get that space to come and spend some time with family and friends, obviously. So yeah, that's how I rejuvenate.
That's really sweet, Shreyas. Thank you so much for that answer. Navya, of course, we've shared a bunch of stages having these conversations, so I know you're a pro at them. A lot of people may not even know that you started your first company at 21, which was only 4 years ago, of course. But you've worked across various sectors and on social impact aimed at women and at young people. And again, I know that this is a question that is asked to you a lot, but of course, as someone who has had privilege and the opportunity to do anything, why is it that working on social impact and empowering other young people, and especially women, why does that make you happy?
You're really asking me all the really difficult questions. But I'm going to steal something you've been saying to me for the last 1 month, is that I think we have a responsibility to leave society better than we got it. And I think I'm trying to play my part in doing that. But I think when you talk about privilege, I think, I was blessed to be given a lot growing up. And I think even for me to be able to start a company at 21 is something, that only happened because of, maybe the support that I got from my family, or the fact that, maybe I had certain advantages. And I think accepting that is a big aspect of that, is understanding that you were given a lot of opportunities that a lot of people don't get at that age. And so to use those opportunities responsibly is something that at least my family has brought me up to believe in. And I also actually graduated in COVID, and we were just talking about that earlier. And I think that a lot of organizations and companies and startups that started post-COVID, suddenly became geared towards not just chasing profits or metrics, but also, what their consumer was feeling at the end of the day. It was more impact driven, more impact centric. We wanted to actually, either work towards climate change or impact people's lives. And I think I was also one of those people, because I started my company during COVID in the middle of the lockdown. And I think that at that time, everyone's mind was on how can we help. I think it didn't even have to be on a larger scale. It was just how can we help even one individual person, because of what the climate was like at the time. And so I think that was where the sentiment for just wanting to help and do something, and share a lot of the opportunities and resources that I was given, so that a lot of other people can do the same with their time and their, intelligence. And we have, of course, this report is about Gen Z, and I really think that our generation has so much talent, and not enough opportunities to, perform or to use those abilities. And I was just trying to see if I could create a platform that would allow that to happen.
Yeah, I really admire you for all of this. I think Project Naveli has been doing a wonderful job. I see only Shreyas clapping at the end of every answer. Please, he's been rooting for every one of us.
Yeah.
We all need to root also for the people on the stage.
Thank you. It's such a
lovely
great
answer.
feeling. No matter what you say, he's going to clap.
Yeah,
for
Shreyas
you.
is like, I'm rooting for you all as well. Please.
Just makes you feel that someone is listening.
Yes, thank you.
That's come on. See, your team is clapping. They've got the brief. The rest of you also now need to catch up. So, I continue with you, Navya, because you mentioned the workplace. I think we were talking about happiness at the workplace. There is obviously this understanding that Gen Zs and young people in general are conditioned to hustle a lot. That word has been thrown around a lot, right? And most young people now today are speaking up about their mental health at the workplaces. They're speaking about how difficult it is sometimes for them to work in environments where they're forced to work longer. There's no work-life balance, etc. As a young entrepreneur who also leads a team of young people, do you have can you give us an understanding of how you ensure a positive workplace and positive work environment? Any tips that you may have for the rest of them? But would love to hear your learnings, and as well as just if you would like to pass them on to others.
I think firstly, I'm sitting in a room full of very distinguished people, so I don't know what tips I'm going to give them. But from the last 3 years of my experience of running a team, I think something I learned to do is be an empathetic leader. I think we need more empathy in the workplace. And I think leaders often believe that, your team is working for you, but I think they work with you. It's not something that, you're above. Or I don't think, like you say, hierarchy has anything to do with respect. I think every member of your team should be given respect, equal respect, no matter what designation they have. And something, at least I think in the beginning, at least being a woman in the workplace and then being a young person in the workplace, I felt I had to be very assertive in the way that I was doing my business or in the way I was doing work. I had to be very in control, and that's not the reality. As human beings, we can't always be in control. And I think I learned very quickly that the only way that I would create a happy or, just a positive work culture was if I was empathetic and if I was able to express my good days, but also my bad days. If I was able to express things that, I was not sure of, if I didn't know how to do. And I think that what created a really nice culture with the team, because they felt that they had the transparency to come and tell me things, when they aren't feeling the best or when they aren't having the best days. And I think that's really what we've tried to do, is just be empathetic to each other and, despite designations or hierarchy. And I think that that's just worked really well for us. And we have a very positive work environment where that if you're not doing well on a particular day, someone else is going to be there for you. Like Shreyas has been clapping for everyone. That you have a team of people who will be there to lift you up if you're not feeling the best. And I think it's equally important for leaders to understand that you can't always be in control, you can't always be in power. And I think that your vulnerability and your humanity at the end of the day is what's going to make other people actually, value that more. And it just creates a really nice cycle of happy people in the workplace.
So well said, so well said. First time everyone's clapped before Shreyas, so I like that. I appreciate it. Um, I just want to reiterate, I think it's such an important point, right? I think some of the research also and the report also brought this up. We saw that about 61 to 64% people are actually saying that they would rather value a mental health positive workplace or a flexible work environment even more than perhaps their salaries. As we've gone on campuses now on ground and we're hearing this with young people, we're hearing them speak up and say that we care about, our us at the workplace as much as we care about the work at the workplace. So thank you for bringing that in. I would, Niharika, again, as the other Gen Z on this stage, I've spoken about advice, but I know that a lot of young people today are choosing alternate careers like yours. I don't even know if content creation today or being a digital creator is an alternate career at this point, with 10 million, I think, and more people wanting to take this up. What kind of an advice would you give to any young person from something you have learned, from the mistakes that you may have made or the hard work that you've done to come here? What advice would you like to give other young people on how do you maintain your happiness and well-being while being creators or just working in alternate professions outside of the typical workplace?
I think social media can be extremely enticing, and you look at it and you're like, oh my God, this is so amazing, we should do this. But it's just everybody's highlight reel, guys. You really don't see what is going behind it. I'm not saying, oh, it's so difficult. I'm just saying there's the ugly also. I think for me, I graduated 6 months ago, and even 6 months ago, I wasn't ready to not take up a job, because it's a very unstable career. I'm one of the top creators today, tomorrow it's someone else. And the entertainment industry has a shelf life, especially for women. And I'm very aware of it, which is why don't quit your job. If you have a stable 9 to 5, it's good to have stability. Do this on the side until the paycheck that comes from this is, way higher, or makes you feel financially stable and comfortable. I don't think you should leave it for the glitz and the glam, because you're relevant today, you're not tomorrow. What are you going to eat? Flashes and cameras? No, you need money, right? So I think when you do social media, you have to be very sensible. I just don't think you should jump into it. A lot of creators are like, oh my God, do social media, do it. But to get the kind of money that you get once you're at the top, you'll have a lot of years where you make absolutely no money on social media and nobody's watching you. Will you still make those videos if you're not making money and nobody's watching you? If your answer is no, you're not a social media creator is not your passion. Make videos that you want to make on the side. Once it starts bringing you money, do it as a job. That's it. That's my 2 cents, because I wouldn't leave a financially stable space to follow a passion that I don't even know what it would take me to, you know? Be passionate, don't be stupid, basically.
Nicely put. Yeah, I think a lot of these things we don't even understand. I think it's, you know, they're the Gen Zs and young people are the first generation that is actually living through this, you know, so their kind of history in as it is being formed. So it's important to have this kind of context. So thank you for providing that. You know, we're talking about workplaces. We've spoken about pressure, external pressure, Shreyas. But as a Team India cricketer, you know, I would imagine that it was something that you would want to do. And growing up, now you're here. You know, there are also expectations you have from yourself. And we hear a lot of young people putting that very hard pressure on themselves to be performing all the time, to be kind of making sure that they're always succeeding, which is not possible, obviously, right? As a batsman, there are times you get out earlier. There are times you, so to speak, fail. How do you deal with your own expectations when, you know, failure happens in such a public sphere?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question, and I feel in every walks of life right now, coming from social media or, you know, corporate life, me as a cricketer, sportsman, all of us, we strive for success and we want to achieve something and make sure that we get somewhere in our life. And obviously there is going to be pressure in every step that you take. But for me, pressure is an integral part of my business. I feel if pressure is not there, I won't enjoy. And when pressure is there, there is a lot of competition, and competition creates opportunities, and opportunities will take you somewhere if you click at the right time. But I see to it that I take this opportunity of pressure and I try to channel it to my motivation and focus. So that's how I cope up with pressure. And talking about expectations, obviously, I feel that whenever I walk on the street now, I'll like to give an example over here. Whenever I walk on the street, especially after my training, there are people standing outside the gate of the stadium and they want to take pictures. And I always stop and they ask me, keep asking me, kabhi aa rahe ho aap wapas khelne ke liye? Kitna time lagega aapko fit hone? Because for last few months, I have been just rehabbing and I don't know myself when I'll be back. But I've been grinding and going through this phase pretty strong because the pressure is always there and the expectation is there from people for you to come and perform and see to it that you're, you know, consistently playing for your country. And I have that thing at the back of my mind, but I know personally how to cope with it. It might differ for someone else. Whatever suits me, it doesn't suit anyone over here. You might get your own mantra and own thought process to deal with such aspects. For me, this is working, and that's what I love to follow personally. So, yeah, and also in between, as I mentioned previously, I love to practice mindfulness, where I do meditation, where I try to find some peace, which makes me happy, and spend time with my family, you know. So, to be honest, this family is the strongest support system that you will ever have. Because they are going to be with you through thick and thin, no matter what. And the friends, I feel this is the best way to have a great set of friends when you know that they are there with you when the chips are down, and when you're down in the dumps, they are a keeper. So, yeah, I feel this is what I follow whenever I'm under pressure, and there is a lot of expectations.
Such a lovely answer. Round of applause. After hearing you speak so passionately about family and friends, I know I can't be your family, but I'd love to be your friend, Shreyas. I would still love to just ask, because you've been so honest and vulnerable, I'd still love to ask just one further question. because I was talking about failures, and in your eyes, on a day where you feel you have not performed as well as you wanted to, and you have failed, is there, again, you've spoken of meditation, mindfulness, is there something you do on those days, where you feel like you have let yourself down?
So whenever I realize that I haven't performed to my expectation, I just try to learn what I did wrong. I try to acknowledge. See. I feel it is important to have self-compassion, where you acknowledge yourself at times on your achievements. You enjoy tiny occasions wherever you go for practice with your teammates. Spend that time, quality time, basically, rather than spending, a lot of time and distracting yourself. And I go out for holidays at times to completely unwind myself, as I mentioned to one of my friends over here right now, that when I'm not playing, it is hard for me to watch TV and see other players play. So I like to, play PlayStation on some other sport. I love football, love watching football, and I try to, see to it that I'm completely focused on something else, but not cricket. So this is how I try to cope with, you know, my failure especially. I don't like to call it failure because you always learn. You keep learning from new things. So either you have strength or there are limitations. So there are no weaknesses.
Love that. What a fantastic POV. And I love what you spoke about self-compassion, because I think we speak a lot about kindness and to others. We forget to talk about kindness to ourselves, and I think that's a very important part of what is empathetic leadership. Not just being kind as a leader to your team, but also making sure you are prioritizing your own happiness. And coming to that again, as I said, I think I've been very inspired and I find it so admirable, Anand, that RPG Group has all these incredible policies, which prioritize the well-being of employees at the workplace. And I would just, as one of the leaders of this group, I would love for you to tell us what are these initiatives that, at least a couple of initiatives, if you could tell us, that you have put in place to ensure employee well-being. And if you could also tell us why you thought that was important. I think it'll be really great for the other, leaders over here to hear not just the initiative, but the thought behind it.
Sure. So I think one is there are a lot of similarities between Gen Z and even Gen X, Gen Y, but I'd say that what are the differences? And the few things that come to my mind, I'd say, are that Gen Z is really a very purposeful group of people. They want to work in companies that do more than just make money. They want to work in companies that are impacting the world, making the world a better place, and they're doing something meaningful. So I think that is one thing that really differentiates them, and one of the things that we try and do in our companies, as I shared about our vision of unleashing talent and touching lives, that's part of our vision. Our vision in CET, which is the tire company, is about making mobility safer and smarter every day. So it's not only that we're looking for profits, but also how do we make our customers' lives better, and that's what I think is very important for Gen Z. The other thing is they're looking for a more holistic life in comparison to maybe the previous generations. For them, as you touched upon, mental well-being is very important, physical well-being is important, work is important, family, relationships, all of that is important. And I think that comes into culture and not only policies, but what do we believe in when we speak to our people, that in the end, we believe a lot in giving them freedom. So we're not going to monitor how many hours of work you're working every day, what days are you coming to work, but as long as you're delivering your work and you're doing what is expected out of you, that's good enough. Whether you do it at home and you come to work at 12 o'clock because your mother's not well, or you've taken a late flight in and you want to come in a little late, and that's fine. And just kind of having that trust itself makes all the difference. So these are just some cultures and policies and beliefs that we have. I also think that the Gen Z really looks at valuing diversity, inclusion, that element of individualism that makes each person special, that you're a creative person or you're an analytical person and so on and so forth. So how do we appreciate that and not have those bureaucracies that are there in the system, that I'm a senior manager, you're a junior manager, so you listen to me, but I will value you because you are special, because you have that creative ability that I may not have, and so on. So just kind of having that additional respect at a human level, becomes important. So I think these are some things that we really value. And what we've done differently is a lot of these policies have been recommended by the Gen Zers. So a lot of them, we have a team, they recommend policies and then they kind of get approved by the larger team in a way. So for example, we found in the case of sustainability, the senior people were less passionate about sustainability than, say, the younger Gen Zers. So they kind of have formed the group who have taken on the mantle of making the company and group more sustainable because they're just so much more passionate about that.
That's incredible. Can we have a round of applause for this, please? You know, and as I said, it's been so amazing that a lot of the things that you're already doing at the workplace is also the outcome of the report that we've done. So if if you get a hands on that report, there is something called the Commandments of Happiness, broken down as HAPPINESS from the Gen Z. We've heard the Gen Z across the country, and we have come up with these commandments. And I think if you implement them at those workplaces, like Anand already has, like the RPG group already does, you also try to do the same. I think it would really make for better and more positive workplaces for young people. And I think that's the note I want to end on. If there's I know you've given a long answer on that, Anand, in any case, but if there's one thing that you think makes for a happy workplace, if all of us can kind of answer that, what is that one thing that you think makes for a happy workplace?
I would say freedom. So just kind of trusting people and giving them freedom to work how they like.
Fantastic. Trusting in people. I think you should note these down. These are really important things. Please note them down. You can also tweet them out, hashtag. There's all these people over here who you can tag as well. Feel free to do that. Niharika, one thing that makes for a happy workplace.
Happy employees, just keep them
Workplace,
happy, right?
just workplace. Yeah, your workplace.
My workplace?
Yeah, what is that one
Just
thing?
me happy because it's just me, myself and I. So if I'm happy, my workplace is happy. We love that for me.
Well, yeah, I mean, I meant your industry, but yeah, that also completely
my
works.
industry. I don't think. That's a therapy session. Never mind.
Well, okay, I think trying to keep yourself happy is what makes for a
Yes.
happy workplace. I think
Inner
that's a good
peace.
answer. Inner peace, absolutely. Shreyas?
For me, it's all about strong bonding. So fun and enjoyable moments that fosters the sense of camaraderie. Yes, one
Love
line.
it. Strong bonding at the workplace.
Yeah.
Navya?
I would say equality and kindness.
Absolutely, Ryan. Absolutely. Equality and kindness. I'll again add, I think, just listening to young people, which is what we've also tried to do with the report. If you just listen as much as possible in the workplaces, you can absolutely create positive environments. Can we have a round of applause to all these incredible people over here who have given their time and efforts? I just, is the other question, and Madonna, are you going to be doing the Q&As or are we going to be?
You can take.
If anyone has questions for the people over here,
Can we have a
please
mic
feel
in
free
the
to
audience?
ask.
Thank you so much, Nikhil, Niharika, Anand, Shreyas, and Navya for sharing your thoughts. But doesn't end here. I would like to just sum up by saying happiness is truly a state of mind, right? It's not about waiting for that big moment, that big dream to be fulfilled, that you be happy. I would say enjoy the journey and not just the destination. With that, we open the floor for Q&A. Can I have a mic in the audience, please?
We'd love, leaders, but as well as young people. If anyone has questions, please feel free to ask.
So could you stand?
Yeah.
We'd see you. Yes?
Hi, I'm Sam Balsara. As I was listening to all the wonderful thoughts, my thinking has been that you have to learn and train your mind to be happy. Otherwise, nothing in the world is going to make you happy. In whatever state you are, you can easily lull yourself into believing that you are unhappy. I'd like to hear, the panelists' view on this, or also if your research threw this up. Because I think it's a very essential condition to your state of well-being.
Indeed it is.
Would young
Anyone
people you
would
would like
like
to
to
go?
answer
Navya, what do you think about this?
Why am I being chosen as the
He's
first
talking
one?
about he's talking about a mindset that he's had. They're talking about young people in the
Everyone
research.
here is young.
Niharika, Navya, you're the
I'm
youngest
just
of
a
the lot.
sad person, so you can take
I mean, at least what I agree with you actually, and I think we've all probably at some point in our lives been told that we have to train ourselves to be happy. And maybe for the longest time I did that as well. But I think what changed for me is just gratitude. I think gratitude for very small things in life. Gratitude for having a roof over your head and food on a plate, just the bare minimum that we're able to have that on a daily basis. I think that just, being more grateful makes me more happy because it makes me realize that I have a lot more, and often we are in this race of just trying to succeed and gain things, and we actually forget all that we already have. So I think that gratitude would be my answer.
It's a great answer. That's why we go to you, see? We go to the youngest people because they're
I'm
smartest.
taking Shreyas's idea and work well under pressure.
Anyone else would like to add to that? Anand, Shreyas, Niharika, anyone?
No, just to add, I absolutely agree. I think happiness is something that can be learned. I think it's through a set of possibly practices that one can do, which can lead to it, whether it's, physical health. If you work out 3 times a day, 3 times a week, you'll be a happier person. If you practice gratitude, you'll be a happier person. But I don't think you can always be happy. We are all human and we have to forgive ourselves if sometimes we are jealous or we are unhappy or we are sad. That's also part of life. So I think it can be learned through some practices. Mindfulness, so if you combine some of this in your day-to-day living, I feel you can be happy.
Thank you so much, Anand. From the report, I'd just like to add, I think a lot of young people recognize this, but they also recognize that there are a lot of external factors that that depend upon whether you can be happy or not, and which is why they want the surroundings also to recognize this and acknowledge that happiness is not possibly just an individual state of mind, it's also a collective. The community needs to come together to kind of make it happen, and that's what the research is trying to make happen, that can the workplace become a community where everyone's supporting each other and trying to make each other happy. But thank you for that lovely question. Do we have anyone else who has a question? Maybe a young person I'd love to hear from. Yeah, the young woman at the front, yeah.
Yes, we have a mic right there.
So, hi, I'm Pooja. And often in workplaces, we see that it's not just one generation which is working. It's an amalgamation of generation. You have Gen Z and you have Gen Y. And every generation has their own set of characteristics, which sometimes when you speak something or when any generation has an idea, you're lost in there's loss in translation. So how do you bridge that gap between generations where everybody is happy and nobody feels left out? How do you bridge that gap?
Such a great question. Who would like to take that? Such a fantastic question.
Yeah, I would like to answer that because as a cricketer, when you get into the team, you have seniors around all the time. And whatever, like all the achievements, all the accolades they have had in their life. So the best way to chill along and build that camaraderie is just to go out for a coffee with them. And try to ask them questions, because if a senior is around you, when you ask them question and try to learn few things from them, they also feel special from within. And that way you can learn a lot of things which you haven't noticed while you're working. Even though you're a Gen Z, there is a lot of experience out there which you want to embrace, and that will only come through a lot of conversations which you'll be getting involved in with your seniors. So always respect your seniors and see to it that you have your good camaraderie with them and build that strong sense of belief around.
Such a fantastic answer. If I may ask, because I'm curious, who was the first person in the Indian team, Shreyas, that you asked out for a coffee to learn from?
To be honest, it was coach.
Oh, wow.
Coach, yeah. Because Rahul Dravid is a coach. And he's always up for brainstorming. No matter whatever the occasion is, when you call him, you can have an open chat about whatever you want to. This is TMI, to be honest, but yeah.
That's why I asked and you answered. But no, what a fantastic answer. Such a simple thing, but it can have such a great response. Just ask out your seniors for coffees, listen to them, and I think that can be so helpful. Anyone else, Anand, Niharika, anyone of you has anything to add to this?
Oh my God, I forgot the question. Great answer. I was like, yeah, what he said, I love Dravid. Like my head like went somewhere else. Sorry.
I mean, was at the workplace, how do you ensure that there is collaboration between older and younger folks?
I just think mutual respect. I feel like most generations think we know better than the other. I just feel like we all have so much to learn. I think from my parents or like older generations, I really learned discipline and like having the drive and putting in the hours. But from Gen Z and like my generation, I learned that you can put in the hours, but also get some sleep. You don't have to not sleep at all and put in the hours. And yeah, and I also learned that motivation is not the only fuel, discipline is. And that's something that I'm trying to apply, and that I get from my parents and like grandparents. But Gen Z is cute.
Also, I would like to add to that. Sorry. Yeah, it goes vice versa. Even seniors, they have to acknowledge the juniors because there's so many things to learn from them as well.
Agreed.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
because their attitude, their approach, their fearlessness, it's something that you can't match it at your level. When they come, you see that fire in their eyes, in their belly. That's something that you can learn from them, and also, as I mentioned, as she rightly mentioned, it's mutual respect. So it is important and pivotal, these aspects.
Yeah, and to keep that fire burning, we can take a few tips from our previous generations. You know what I mean? We come in with a fire, but I feel like they can help us add more fuel to it. While taking little fuel from us, also add it to yourselves.
I love the
Guys,
collaboration
we
that's
bring
happening
some.
on the stage right now. It's like, okay, I get it.
We're doing Jugalbandi.
Yeah.
Shreyas, you go now.
No, but I love, Anand was actually speaking about this earlier where he spoke about reverse mentoring. You want to talk about that? I thought it was such an interesting concept.
Yeah, no, so I was talking about it in the interview outside, but largely exactly what Shreya said, the respect has to be the other way around. And in today's world, there is, with the digitally native Gen Z who have just grown up living and seeing Instagram and internet and all of that, there's so much for the senior folks to learn. So reverse mentoring is largely where you catch up with the young Gen Zers or an individual mentor and learn from them as to what's happening, what motivates them, what's going on tech, and how can the company change.
Fantastic. Do we have time for
One last
One
question.
last question?
One last question. Anyone quickly? Yes, please.
So hello
She said
everyone.
quickly and we had a quick...
So just adding on the similar lines that you guys are discussing now. So everyone here has a experience of leading a team, either Shreyas, either Navya. So when you lead a team, basically it's like there are a lot of different people there. Like you have a people from, like now the discussion was Gen Z and Gen Y. So there are a lot of different people and they all are a different person. So they have a different way of thinking. When you lead a team, so basically they think like that. Somebody has a different way of thinking. Somebody can understand what you're trying to express in a different manner. So how you make sure that you take all of them together? Because sometimes whatever you are doing, other person may think it is right. At the same time, the second person will not think it is right.
Team leaders all over here, Anand, Navya, Shreyas, who would like to go? I think it comes a lot from the previous answer, but if there's any other points that you'd like to add?
No, I think that's what builds the strength of the team, diversity. If everyone had the same thought, then you're kind of, you don't need so many people in the team. So if you can have a team where you have creative experts, somebody who has studied English language and somebody who has studied psychology and somebody who has studied business, that mix will add a lot more value to the team. So you appreciate everyone's point of view and then emerge to something which is something completely innovative and interesting.
Thank you.